Hello, everyone. Welcome to this webinar today. Sound Talent Recruitment helps add value, and we're going to take you through those processes. I'm Peter Towers, Managing Director of ESS BIZTOOLS. Welcome. If you have any questions during the webinar, can you please type your question into your computer, and I will answer your questions later during the webinar. So let's get into it. Attracting and keeping the right people. This is one of the 4 essential components of the key strategies that are required is to create an appropriate life cycle for a business to be successful. And after all, that's why we're all in business, isn't it? To be successful. This concept was explored by Vern Harnish, who wrote a very interesting book called Scaling Up, which was based on the research and observations and writings conducted by John Rockefeller about 100 years ago. So isn't it amazing? A lot of these thoughts were originally written down 100 years ago. So what is the life cycle of a business? Attracting and keeping the right people and having a committed leadership team is very, very important. You can't do much in business unless you've got a team and you've got some leaders. And we're going to be discussing that today. But let's look at some of the other key components of the life cycle of a business. You need to be able to create a truly differentiated strategy. It's no use being exactly the same as your competitors. What else can you do? What other things can you do to make your business look different? And your people and your leadership team are a vital component of that. You then need to be looking at your strategy. Have you created a truly differentiated strategy? Something that sorts you out from everyone else. And then that strategy needs to be executed. And Harnish called it driving flawless execution. And that's going to require planning and some thought. And having plenty of cash to weather the storms. As businesses grow, they need money. And if businesses grow too fast, they might run out of the supply of money. And that's a separate webinar presentation we'll be making to business operators in the next couple of weeks. So let's look at leadership, because it's a key component of the people side of the life cycle component. Leadership is linked with attracting and keeping the right people. Businesses, I think, should be continually training team members in leadership skills, making sure you've got the right people. A well-informed and trained leadership team is vital for success. These are the people who are going to inspire the team within your organization to go the extra yard or mile, whichever one you want to use. And I see this as all part of your talent recruitment. That's the terminology that Vern Harnish used in Scaling Up. He doesn't like the terminology human resources. And the more that I think about it, I think he's right. So we're calling it talent recruitment, a bit like a football club does. They want to win premierships. Well, you want to win your competition against your competitors, don't you, in your business? So let's look at talent development. Who is responsible in your organization? Now, some of you are going to be very small businesses, maybe only 2 or 3 team members. Others who are watching this presentation might have 40 or 50 people. But whoever you are and whatever size of team members that you have, you need to have identified someone who is in charge of talent development. And in a small business, very small business, that person may wear a number of hats, and it may even be you. Are you committed to offering adequate training to your team? Because you will not develop the talent unless there is ongoing training. And you could probably easily spend at least a week a year, 38 hours in ongoing training in your business to keep your team motivated and at the cutting edge of the utilization of new ideas, new technology. Your accountancy firm, if they are committed to offering a broader range of services to help you improve your business, could be able to assist. But if they are flat out doing tax returns and haven't got the time or the resources, if you contact me, send me an email, peter@essbiztools.com.au, I will be able to make some suggestions to you, because we have a network of accountants and business advisors all over Australia who are committed to supplying a broader range of professional services to help you, the business operator, run a better business and add value to it. So let's go back to the very beginning. Who's in charge of recruitment? Do you have some planning that you've already undertaken in your business as to how you are going to identify the type of person you need to invite into your organization? So that means having a good look at your manpower rosters. What's the upcoming work? What skills or qualifications does this new person need? Who's going to do the interviewing? Are you going to sit down, first of all, and determine the key characteristics that you're trying to find from the interviewing process? How are you going to record your feelings about the person you've just interviewed so that you are comparing apples with apples when you finalize your deliberations? And that's probably what I was just talking about, the selection process. It's then very important to make sure that you have prepared the job description that does match the skills that this person that you're about to employ is going to bring, but also obviously to make sure that the job that you had in mind is going to be handled. Why I've said that you can have a bit of flexibility about this is sometimes you find that the person you're about to offer a position to has some skills or experience in something that you hadn't originally identified as being a prime consideration for this job. But now that you know that they've got those skills or experience, you might decide that you're going to allocate them some specific work in that area. For example, the person applying for a clerical position in your office may well have been trained as a journalist and doesn't like the concept of working 38 hours a week as a journalist. But perhaps that person's skills as a journalist, the ability to write and communicate, could be used within your business. And now that you're aware of that, because you found that out in the interview process, you might be able to make sure that you're allocating some specific responsibilities for that person. And then we come to the very important process, I think, is the induction. So you've interviewed, you've sent details of the job description and the letter of invitation for this person to join your business. And they've turned up on the Monday morning and they're there 8:15 for an 8:30 start. What happens? Because a lot of employers, unfortunately, seem to do this wrong, because a substantial number of new engagements don't last very long, because they're just plonked at a desk or at a machine or told that's their car and get out on the road and start selling without any sort of induction process. It costs a lot of money to employ a new person. You've gone through the employment process, offering the job, planning the job description, and then suddenly they don't like it. And a lot of that don't likeness can occur through failure to adequately implement the induction process. So it needs top priority. The CEO should be making inquiries, I believe, to make sure that the induction process is going to be handled appropriately, that the new person is going to be orientated, understand where everything is, from bathroom facilities through to the pay office, through to how they complete their daily timesheets, completing of their personal details, their emergency telephone numbers. All of that type of activity needs to be undertaken. And to achieve this, I really believe that you should be making sure you have diverted one of your other team to be the buddy for the first couple of weeks to settle this new person in, no matter who they are, even if they've been employed as a manager. I know what that feels like. I joined a company many years ago. I went on to become the chief financial officer and company secretary. But on the day I started, my new boss, who was the area manager, because I started as a regional accountant in that company, was away, and he was away a lot because he had other duties that he attended to that continually took him out of town. But I turned up, and the sales manager said, well, I know you're coming. There's your office. There's a phone there, and we have a coffee break at 10 a.m. And I don't know what accountants do. So there's 8 or 9 people out there in the office. So I'll leave you to it. So I basically had to go and start interviewing the team to find out what they all did so I could work out what my role was. Now, admittedly, I was creating a new position. That company in that branch office had never had an accountant before. But it was a bit daunting. I knew he walked out after the second day, but I kept on getting told by the boss's secretary that he had rung in and made sure I was there and had asked the sales manager to look after me. But it would have been better to have someone that was really sitting there as the buddy. So think about the buddy. It can be a bit lonely and daunting starting a new job. What specific skills has this person got? I've already referred to skills like a journalist. But do you keep a skills register? It's very important these days because there's a number of activities, especially if you're servicing in the mining industry, that people have gone through the induction or orientation process. And they get, in effect, a certificate to say that they're able to go onto such and such a mine site. So it's a good idea to keep a register because these processes can take some time, 2 to 3 hours in some cases. And you might have sent the wrong team member to do a half-hour job. And they've had to sit, because they didn't have the right registrations, they've had to sit 3 hours going through that process. What licenses and permits have they got? Have they been recorded? It's very important that the new team member is introduced to workplace health and safety aspects that you have in your business. Now, if you're a manufacturing business, you'll have a lot of those. But every business should be aware of workplace health and safety, even if it's only where's the first aid cabinet. And what are the internal processes that a new person should understand and know? How often are team meetings? Is there a daily huddle or a toolbox meeting, and what time is it? Is the new person, obviously they're expected to be there. Are they going to be told in a week's time that they're the secretary for this meeting? So are they forewarned, or is it just thrown at them? I think they should be forewarned. And what management meetings are involved in the organisation? And are they expected to be submitting reports to it? Or perhaps they may even be part of the management team, and obviously they're expected to be there. And what are they to do or contribute when they're there? This is all just, in lots of ways, common courtesy in briefing someone as to what their role is. But unfortunately, around Australia, it obviously doesn't happen in every case, because there are thousands of people who pull the plug in the first couple of weeks of being awarded a new job. So the employer's got to start the process all over again, and a very disillusioned person is now out in the marketplace. and you don't know how much bad mouthing they're giving on your organization. So let's look at the development of talent. Training should be a priority, I believe, at all levels of the organization, so that there's an identification of team members for upgrading. I think businesses should be looking at every member of their team and saying, let's train them so that they can move on to do the next job going up the ladder. So that's what I mean by an awareness of succession planning. Succession planning is just not for you as the CEO or the general manager or your accountant, if you've got an internal accountant, but it's for every position. Because what happens if someone does decide to leave or retire or gets injured? Who can take their place? Who knows something else about what they're doing? I think in 2019-20, commercial knowledge is very important. And this is going to be one of the key differentiators of businesses. How much does your line managers understand about commercial matters? And how much does your team understand? Because this will give you an edge in the marketplace. So in the first instance, I think your team leader that's leading a particular group of people should be able to clearly identify to the team what their function is as an economic unit within your business, whether you're a very big business or a supermarket that might have 30 to 40 departments. And in each of those, there's a manager or a team leader to give the team an understanding of what they're doing. Budgeting is so important these days that the team should understand and I think contribute to the budgeting decisions. So for argument's sake, if a team member says, look, the customers don't like that particular brand of yogurt, if you're in a food store, I know it because they bring it back, they don't like it, it sits on the shelves. We continually try to rotate it, but it just sits there. Well, that message might not have really got through to the purchasing department. So what contributions can the team make to budgets? Understanding of key commercial matters. I think every department should have its own trading account so that the team leader or manager can see the income that's been generated, the calculation of the cost of sales. Opening stock plus purchases less closing stock gives you your cost of sales. And then the calculation of the gross profit so that each month, or in some cases weekly, the gross profit percentage is able to be determined so the team can discuss that and look at how they've performed. Understanding the key performance indicators will give some real ammunition to your total team to understand what the performance on a particular key item was last week or year to date and what happened this week when it suddenly dropped by 20%. The more knowledge like this that you can implant into your team, the better they will perform. A lot of businesses, especially big businesses, prepare weekly performance reports. Why don't small businesses do it? So if you're running a retail store, it's not that big a job to prepare a weekly report. It's an estimate, but it gives you some basis for understanding how your business has performed in that previous week to see whether changes need to be made. And how does that performance compare to the budget? Most definitely, though, you need to be comparing budgets on at least a monthly basis. This concept of waiting for over 12 months, giving your information to an accountant to prepare your annual accounts and tax returns is no good in 2019-20. I don't think it's been good at any stage, but it's definitely no good because businesses need to know your results now. This is a Wednesday we're broadcasting on this. A lot of your competitors probably know their results for the week ending on Sunday. They would have known that on Monday afternoon. So therefore they can make changes in what they're doing if something obviously was not working. I think all team members need to understand the impact that their decisions are making on cash flow. So businesses need to discuss this, first of all, with their leadership team, and then ask them to talk to their team members about it, so that there's a better appreciation of what cash flow is all about in a business, and an understanding of the cash conversion cycle that occurs, because you're going to have money tied up in assets for a long time. And we're going to have a look at one of these, a cash conversion cycle, which you can see on your screen now. And it indicates that we start with stock, you buy it in on day one, but then you've got to pay for your stock. It might be in 30 days' time, but you mightn't sell the stock for 100 days. And then it might take the customer 45 days to pay you. So the businesses need to be aware of the number of days that stock is part of the cash flow lockup. Terms of trade agreements are very important, but people need to understand why they're important, because they're part of the business's understanding with a customer, but they're also part of the process for determination of personal property securities registration, which I'm coming to. Retention of title agreements are also very important. This gives you the right, if they're appropriately signed and registered, to be able to repossess some of the items that you may have sold to a customer if they haven't paid you for them. Now, if you're going to have an effective system working in your organization to give you the ability to repossess goods or take action against a customer, you need your team members to understand how all this works. This is part of the training. The Personal Property Securities Register is a federal government piece of legislation that's now been operating since January 2012. Over $400 million has been lost by Australian large, medium and small size businesses, most of it in small size businesses. Even though the largest claim of $72 million was lost by a top 100 world company. So if a major international corporation can lose $72 million because they didn't know how the Personal Property Securities Register operated in Australia, that can happen to any small or medium-sized business. So you need to have an understanding of how it operates. Talk to your accountant about it. If they are unable to assist you, please contact us. Go to our website, because we have material there that you can, some of it for free and some you can subscribe for. But you'd hate to get caught up in a problem, and you could have avoided it if you'd registered on the Personal Property Securities Register. Debtors management. Does your team understand that obviously the amount of money that's owing by debtors is cash that's not in your bank account, and therefore that might present some problems in paying their wages next week? What can an individual team member do? They can make sure that the tax invoice is prepared promptly after services or goods are supplied to a customer. But they also need to make sure that if the customer specified that they required weighbridge certificates or health certificates or whatever else to be attached to that invoice before they'll pay it, that they have done that. If they're dealing with a very big business, that business may have cut-off dates. They might say all tax invoices for the previous month have to be received by us by the 10th day of the month. Notice I didn't say business days, 10th day. So if they say 10th day, they mean the 10th of the month. And if you don't get it to them by then, they will not treat that until the next month. And in the meantime, obviously your business hasn't been paid. I think your team need to be aware of this. They need to understand the customer's requirements. Otherwise, your debtors' days outstanding is going to be very large, and that will reduce the cash flow that you have readily got available in your business. Stock turn. Obviously, if you're in a business that's got inventory and you're selling stock, the understanding of stock turn is very important. That information, I think, should be conveyed back to the team so they can see the target was a stock turn of whatever figure for this particular department or product line, and this is what we're achieving. It's 40% worse. Gives them some reason why you might be a little bit unhappy some days. Let's look at personal leadership skills. Delegation. We all need to be able to delegate. Most certainly the CEO, general manager. But everyone else also needs to be able to delegate. Now, I know sooner or later it ends up where there's no more delegation available, but this is also part of team training. Delegating tasks that someone else could do in the organization is very important. And I think businesses which adopt that strategy as part of their culture will be very successful in 2019-20. We've all seen time wasters. And we know in business there's a number of time wasters. They can be meetings. They can be going to some seminars. I hope you don't view this webinar as a time waster, but telephone calls, how emails are responded to. The team needs to be aware of time management strategies so that more productivity can be achieved. Team leaders, I think, need to be developing their own personal skills. This can be communication, their knowledge, how they talk to people. So what makes good teams? Let's look at team and teamwork development. The experts believe that team leaders need to adjust their leadership style to suit the team they're leading. It's no use talking to a team in academic language if the team's knowledge is at a far more basic level. And the team leader is the one who has to adapt. A good saying that I've picked up for team leaders is, what can I do today to help you? In the communication to one of their team members. Because one of the important aspects of a team leader is to be able to lead the team. A team is going to produce the products or the services. So how can you help them do their jobs today? And in scaling up, Vern Harnish really likes the idea of every team within an organization setting key 3-month targets, not 100 of them, not even 10 of them. He likes 2 or 3 that you nail to the wall and say, that is what we are going to achieve. So the team need to discuss that and then develop their strategies to how that's going to be implemented. It's very important that the leaders understand Fair Work Australia issues because they can get you into a fair bit of strife, which can be very costly by a lack of understanding on Fair Work Australia issues. So that's important. And the same thing really applies to workplace health and safety. There seems to have been a lot of accidents in workplaces around Australia in the last 6 months. I don't know why, but obviously each of us has got an obligation to try to reduce the incidence of workplace health and safety matters. What about your customers? Is your team making contact with customers so they understand what your customers or clients are looking for in your business? Is the team looking at the feedback that's received from customers or clients? What do they like? What do they dislike? What other services or products do they think you could offer? So that's the customer suggestions. At the team level, is the team encouraging customers to be giving feedback? And have you got a customer advisory committee? Some businesses use these very successfully. Let's look at the manager's reporting functions. I've seen managers, I was in a public company and come across managers that said, I gather I'm supposed to do a monthly report. I got no idea what to write. So I think the management team should be clearly identifying, or the CEO should be clearly identifying what type of information is to be conveyed in a monthly report. The key beneficiary of the preparation of a monthly report is the person who prepares the report, because it's making them go through and analyze what's happening in their area of responsibility. Therefore, they should have a series of dot points given to them that suits their particular role so that they can submit their comments. And therefore, I really believe that they will be undertaking some research to make sure the answers they're giving are correct. Do you have leadership team meetings? Most businesses find that to be very productive in assisting the leadership team to be able to work in a cooperative manner. And the leadership team should also be clearly identifying what's going to happen in the next quarter. So they get feedback from each of the individual leaders as to what their teams have established, so that this can all be collated. And this is their feedback to the board of directors. This is what we are going to achieve over the next 3 months. And we are going to make sure it's done properly. The team's going to be trained. We're going to be communicating with customers. We have committed to the research and development phase or whatever else is required. ESS Small Business can assist in all this. And I should have checked before, but I haven't got any questions. ESS Small Business can assist you to do all this. We have articles on teams and leadership that are available. Most of these are for a fee, but you can go to our website and have a look. We've got full product packages on leadership, teams and teamwork, making the difference, people skills, developing relationships and trust, motivation, counseling and coaching, delegation. They're the headings that we have, problem solving. And we have a paper that you can look at, which will assist in the determination of what that work is. And for some reason, we're not getting that paper coming up. Oh yes, I've brought it up now. Hopefully you can see that on your screen. So this is a paper on team and teamwork. This is the facilities guidance. There's the headings that are included. So that's an article that's available from our website, which will take you through the whole process so that the leader is learning and you're going to be able to identify what has to be done. So please contact me if you have any questions on any aspect of what I've talked to you today about. So there are our websites if you want to have a look. ESS BIZTOOLS is primarily targeted at accountants and business advisors, but you can go on and have a look. We have a grant identification product called ESS BizGrants, because there are hundreds of federal, state and territory grants in Australia. And we have ESS Small Business, which is where you can go to get access to a number of free articles and paid for articles to assist you in your business. And I didn't want to bring back the... So thank you very much for being with us today in this webinar, looking at sound talent recruitment helps add value. Have a good day. Goodbye.